Oh. Okay, what we'll do, we'll start off around the room. We'll just do a little introduction, where you're from, and just a couple of sentences of what has been happening in your area. So, Catherine, can I get you to lead that? Because my screen's a little bit small and I can't see who's all there.
Yep, that's fine, John. Kia ora koutou. My name is Catherine Harkin. I am the Consumer Liaison for Te Whatu Ora Southern. I will be a little bit quiet today. I've got a bit of a cough and a croaky throat, so apologies if I'm not as talkative as usual. Next on my screen is Colin. Oh, you're on mute, Colin. Oh. Colin, you're on mute.
How's that?
That's better.
That should be better. Yeah. I'm Colin. I'm just an observer here today, I think. Excuse me. I'm sitting in the car out at Fulton Home, Dunedin, waiting for my wife there, so I don't know how good my reception is.
It seems okay at the moment, Colin. Thank you. Rebecca, who's here interpreting today for us.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, everyone.
Nadine.
Hi, my name is Nadine Simpson. I'm representing today the office of Ingrid Leary, MP for Taieri.
Thanks, Nadine. Te Araha.
Kia ora whanau. My name is Te Aroha Aratangi. I am a representative from Southland for the Disability Working Group. I'm also on the Kia Roha Life Unlimited board as well. Kia ora, ngā mihi.
David King.
Dave King from Dunedin, Southern Region. I'm with People First New Zealand, NTPA, and I'm with Life Limited too on the National Board of Life Limited. Yeah. And with the Council Advisory Board on Disabilities.
Thank you, David. Matt.
Hello everyone, my name is Matt Haycock. I'm representing APM. We deliver community health and rehabilitation services in the Southern region, and we've just been awarded a grant to deliver a COVID recovery program for people with disabilities in the Southern region too. So yeah, it's me.
Thanks, Matt. Nice to meet you. William.
Kia ora, William Robertson. I'm the Consumer Experience Manager at Te Whatu Ora Southern, based in Dunedin.
Thanks, William. Vanessa.
Kia ora, I'm Vanessa Tane. I'm an organisational development specialist at Te Whatu Ora Southern.
Thanks, Vanessa. Jack.
Hi everyone, I'm Jack Dever. I'm the Digital Relationships Manager, part of the Data and Digital team at Southern. I'm also part of the Disability Steering Group. And a couple of things that I am involved with is, I guess from an experience perspective, is making our disabled communities presentations at our hospitals as good as possible. And that includes us having the information of their preference for that engagement, how they need to be engaged with. So I'm working with various South Island agencies as we look to move to a new patient management system called South Island PICS in about May this year. So there's a little bit more work to do, but we are making progress in that space. The other thing that we're looking at, slightly more of a longer term view, is doing something with what's known as the health passport that's in use for our disabled community, and working with the ministry on a new digital platform and portal that may allow this to go electronic, albeit with vital UAT or user acceptance testing that we're also looking to be involved in with various members of that disability steering group. Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Ross.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Hikarangi Te Maunga, ko Wāputawa, ko Ngāti Porotēhi, ko Ross Hefeho. I am the Māori Workforce Development Specialist here at Te Whatu Ora Southern, and yeah, just happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. Claire.
Kia ora tātou. My name is Claire. I'm here today representing ADL, which is a not-for-profit in the lower half of Te Waipounamu, supporting young people who have mental health and substance use issues. And I occupy a lived experience position at ADL. Thanks.
Thanks, Claire. Simon. Are you there, Simon? I might come back to Simon. Karen.
Kia ora, I'm Karen. I'm just here representing David Clark's Dunedin electorate office.
Thanks, Karen. Paula.
Kia ora, Paula Waby. I'm on the Community Health Council and work for Your Way Kia Roha, previously Accessibility, and on Blind Citizens Board.
Thanks, Paula. Now people have moved around a little bit on my screen, so I'm not sure if I've missed anyone, but if I have, please speak up. Okay. That might be everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming along. John, I'll hand back to you.
Great, thanks, Catherine. So, yeah, the looks like we've got a good turnout. So just a couple of minutes, I'll give you a little report on what the Disability Working Group has been up to. We have moved our monthly meetings to bi-monthly, and it's working very good because in the off months, we as in Catherine, William and myself are meeting with different representatives from the health board to look at specific projects and aims under the disability strategy. So we've been having meetings with the IT guys. Jack mentioned what he's been up to, and it's been really good and very exciting that things are starting to come along. Vanessa, we've been having meetings with her with regards to the organisational and development and the disability awareness training. So that's been coming along pretty good. We had some good feedback, and there's something, I don't know if we've got time, might actually get Vanessa to talk a little bit to see how we go. One thing that we've also looked at is the Accessibility Charter. It was a document created by the government a few years back with the intention that all government departments sign it. And the intention is that every part of communication is going to be accessible. And interestingly, it's something that now that the health board is a national body per se, we're finding out who's going to be looking into it and following on. So we're going to drive it down here as much as we can. And I mean, it covers everything from how accessible your website is to forms of communication, wayfinding, everything like that has to be accessible. It's mainly geared towards the digital side of things, but it rolls over into all correspondence, appointments and things like that. We've been having meetings with the property department, and hopefully we'll be doing some training with the property managers so that if they're looking at, for example, moving an office, to ensure that the new location is going to be fully accessible. I know of one instance where a department was moved and a person in a wheelchair couldn't access any of the equipment to get their tests done. So it's just sort of the property manager being aware of what to look out for. I've undertook some mini audits of the main entrance to the Walkery, and there was just the issue with the lack of signage, lack of manifestations. The manifestations are the marks on the glass. The building code states that any glazing that can be mistaken for a clear passage has to have manifestations on. Sometimes the frosting looks very good from one side, but when you look at it the other side, it blends in with the road. So while it might look that it complies one way, it doesn't. So there's still a work in progress, a couple of little things we're going to tidy up at the Walkery entrance. There are, unfortunately, vehicles that are blocking the pavement. So if someone uses one pathway, they get there, have to do a U-turn and travel about another 400 meters to get to the other road, and because of the drop curbs and things like that. So we're trying to tidy that up. I did an audit on the Fraser building. It was tidied up and they've moved back in. Unfortunately, the timing of the audit meant that a lot of the stuff had already been done. And we're sort of going to go through and see what can be tidied up. Little things like door frames and doors are supposed to contrast with their surrounding, so that someone with a visual impairment is not going to walk straight into the wall or into the door frame, things like that. So plugs and things supposed to be no lower than 500 mil off the floor, so half a meter. So a lot of things were already in place and signed off. So that's something that we're looking at. An ongoing issue we've had is the concourse entrance. That's the entrance to the emergency department and the outpatients area off of Great King Street. Well over a year, could be 2 years ago, one of our members nearly got run over. His white cane got bent. A week later, I stopped a pedestrian from being run over. And in fact, last week, and I'm going to name and shame, the Otago shuttle came out. It wasn't the hospital one, it was the hospital tours and shuttles bus came out, didn't even stop. So it's been identified that one of the issues is the vegetation, and it's been to and fro. Who should cut it? Is it on council land? Is it on hospital land? I was speaking to someone from the council the other day, and he said, look, it's not on their land. We can go ahead and just cut it. So that's hot off the press. So I'm going to send some emails to Catherine William and we'll follow that up. We just feel that the 2 monthly meetings, we seem to be getting a lot more done, and we can actually sit down with the like of Jack or David or Vanessa and actually spend an hour or two going over projects and things like that. So I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone's got anything. Silence is golden, which is good. So our next face-to-face meeting of the Disability Working Group is going to be February. The terms finish, and so we'll sort of be looking, I'll be chatting around, making a few comments, finding out, looking to get some more people sort of on the rural side of things. So if anyone knows of anyone out in the rural sector who might be keen, but please, please let me know, drop Catherine an email or myself, because one of the things that is in the disability strategy is the inequitable service that is received across the board, and it's especially in the rural sector, so we're really keen to get some people out in that area. Looking around, see if anyone's got their hands up or anything. Okay, won't be a second. So Catherine, we'll pass over to you for feedback from the last meeting, if you like.
Thanks, John. Bear with me just a moment while I get a presentation up. Can everyone see that? Yes? Oh, great. Okay, so this is just covering over what feedback we've received
Apologies,
over.
Catherine, I think we just see your, just the folder.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank
Not
you.
the presentation.
Oh, okay. Let me try again. Thanks, Ross. Don't seem to be able to share it for some reason. Oh, hang on, here we go. Is that better? Can see the presentation? Brilliant. Okay. So sorry, this is covering feedback that we have received over the last quarter into our feedback team who handle all of our complaints, compliments and suggestions. So we've been doing this for probably about 3 of our 4 quarterly forums so far. So the reason that we're doing it is that specifically one of our actions in our disability strategy is that engagement with the disabled community will be assessed through the 6 monthly Health Quality and Safety Commission's Consumer Engagement Quality and Safety Marker. Now I'm very aware that's a very long title, but essentially that is something that every 6 months we go around the various services within the hospital and we ask them to complete a self-assessment on how they are engaging with consumers and including the disabled community. And we ask them specific questions about this and ask them to rate themselves. Then we go through a moderation process. So that John is chair of the Disability Working Group is a part of that, and we also have the chair of the Community Health Council who are a part of that. And they feed into the responses. So saying, for example, we think that this service is overestimating what they're doing, and that actually they could be doing a lot more, or actually the services we know from the experiences that we had that they are engaging with our consumers really well, and that this is making a huge difference to the quality of the service that they're providing. So the reason for this action in our disability strategy, just making sure that we are taking into account the disabled community when we are assessing these services. So then these results get uploaded back to the Health Quality and Safety Commission, and then we do it all again a few months later. So we completed one recently in October, November, and we have, and for that one, we actually managed to achieve 100% completion rate, which was quite exciting actually. And so every service within the hospital right across Southern, all of the services completed that. And we have got another one due in another couple of months, so we will be starting to engage with them again at that point. We are looking at, for the next submission, specifically asking some questions specifically around their services engagement with the disabled community and what they are specifically doing to make access to their service suitable for everyone. So hopefully, possibly by the time we hold the next one of these, we will have the results of that for you as well. Part of the criteria that those services are measured against is how they handle the feedback that they receive. So the aim is that all of our services reach the level that we call partnership. So examples of what that looks like are that patient experience and feedback are measured, and that this information is shared with staff and consumers, that reporting is regular and timely, and the actions taken on feedback are consistent, transparent, and visible across the wider system. So as part of that, we are reporting back to you as the community about what feedback we've received specifically around our disabled community and accessibility over the last quarter. So a few examples that I have from this. We had one consumer who had come in for a particular service within our hospitals. They had suffered a stroke and required additional assistance mobilising, but the reason that they had come into the hospital at that point was it was not related to the stroke. So despite they had been in hospital for some time, I think with the stroke or following it, and despite this being in the notes, the team who were conducting this service weren't prepared and just weren't prepared for the assistance that he would require. So as a consequence of that, there was some relatively extensive education provided to the radiology team, particularly making sure that the notes were read in full, so that any other consumers who do come into that service, because often I suppose with radiology in particular, there can be many examples where consumers would have an underlying condition or a mobility concern that was not specifically highlighted in the notes for that referral. So the team need to be able to look at the wider picture and just make sure that they are taking the full picture of that consumer into account when they're preparing for them to come in for the particular procedure. We also had quite a startling number of compliments for our EPS, Emergency Psychiatric Service, over the last quarter. We had 4 separate compliments, all received at different times from different areas, and it was really quite refreshing to see actually. So we specifically, they referred to the compassion and understanding that was shown by the nursing team, gratitude for the efforts of staff to build a rapport with a young man who struggled to share what was going on for him, gratitude for the speed of the diagnosis and treatment that was received, and gratitude for the advice around the support in the community that was provided to the particular consumer. So it was really nice. Often the compliments that we receive aren't sort of all concentrated in one particular area, so it was really nice to see this. We also had a question. This wasn't a complaint. It was more just they wanted to understand more about the particular services that were available. So this was up in the Central Lakes area, and the consumer was concerned. This was a family member they were concerned about what they perceived as the lack of support available for patients with mental health concerns. And this was particularly for a patient who had a traumatic brain injury, who was then struggling to communicate effectively. So when his mental health deteriorated, often trying to communicate that in a way to ensure that he got the assistance that he needed was quite challenging for him. So our team responded in that case with quite extensive examples of the options that were available for that consumer specific to his situation, which would then help his whānau to help him obtain the right support when he needed it in the future. We also had another complaint around a consumer who was going through our mental health service and had been being given prescribed particular medications. However, what our service wasn't necessarily understanding was that there was a child, and the extent of this or the particular diagnosis wasn't described in the complaint, but they had a child with special needs, and that the side effects of the particular medication were not conducive to that consumer being able to look after their child, and actually weren't wasn't the best medication for that consumer to be prescribed. So in that case, the service met with the family to better understand what challenges were being faced within this particular family unit and how they could be accommodating in making sure that the consumer's prescriptions and treatment was appropriate for her, but was also taking into account the larger picture of her family unit as well. So that's just a few of the examples of feedback that we've had over the last quarter that's related to disability and to accessing our services. Just a reminder as well how to raise concerns related specifically to accessibility or disability. So we have got an email set up, which I've just put on the screen there, but for those who aren't able to see that, disability@southerndhb.govt.nz. And compliments, suggestions and complaints can be sent through to feedback@southerndhb.govt.nz. And as always, I'm always available for conversation. My email, I think probably most of you have that from the invitation, but catherine.harkin@southerndhb.govt.nz. That's about me though, John. I'll pass back to you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone got any questions or concerns or comments regarding the feedback? I always think that feedback is important, whether it's good or bad. I always say that there's no bad feedback, because any feedback is good, because if we're doing something wrong, we can use that as the basis to improve the service. Something not quite relevant to the feedback, but it is feedback I've heard from other areas, not just the Southern District, is that patients have been not getting the treatment they need. And this is mainly people with high needs who may need to have a hoist to get into their bed, off the bed, onto the toilet, etc. And there just seems to be like a lack of appropriate equipment around. Not a lot of people know that you can actually take your own equipment into the hospital and things like that. But there is work going on in another area, working with another health board about ways that appropriate equipment can be on hand and things like that. But it just also seems in some places there might be the equipment being shared between 2 or 3 wards. This isn't coming from the southern areas, from up north, but something I think that we need to be aware of, and it might be something that when the new hospital board, or even before then, we start looking at equipment. So it's something that the Disability Working Group will start driving and find out how we can make sure that we don't replicate the same things that's happening. Some instances there hasn't been a bariatric commode available and things like that. So it's just sort of being proactive and making sure that if the patient coming in has got this equipment at home, that they're aware that they can actually bring it. Because I know that if I have to use another wheelchair, it's like someone giving me their pair of shoes to wear. You know, I'm used to my equipment and I feel comfortable and safe using it. But as soon as I start using someone else's equipment, there's a risk I'm going to injure myself and things like that. So it's just aware, staff being aware, patients being aware, family and whānau being aware. Vanessa, if you like, I can give you 5-10 minutes if you want to.
Yep, so I can give a quick update, more likely 5 minutes than 10. So part of the work we've been doing is we've run a review and got some feedback on the accessibility game, which was being used to raise awareness of disabilities and what people might do, and that was facilitated by Julie Woods. So feedback has been rather mixed, and a lot of the impact that it's been having is more at a personal level rather than actually implementing it on the practicalities of the services provided. So going to be looking at finding something or a workshop to fit between what we have, which is mandatory training when people come on board as part of their induction. There's an online e-learning, and then fill that gap in between there. So working on what that might look like, and also part of the complaints process that Catherine was talking about earlier, seeing if there's anything from that could potentially leverage to actually what are the issues that we can target to help raise awareness. Are there specific teams that actually we can go and concentrate on first, rather than just doing it as an open workshop for people to register to, actually look at targeting it into the services, using things, different services and different wards. They have times in their diaries for regular meetings, so being actually getting on their agenda to do a targeted session for them so that we can leverage what's already available in there, rather than trying to sort of pull people out of their normal working days to actually make more of an impact on that side. We also have, as a bit of a leverage as well, is the annual practicing certificates and professional development plans for the senior medical officers or consultants. Part of that is identified as a cultural component that underpins a lot of it. So part of that is not just looking at Māori Pacifica and the cultural awareness of that, but also extending that further into that awareness for disability as a whole impacts all cultures. So how can we bring that, in fact, get that part of the embedded yearly plans so that that's getting through at all levels as well. And that's me. So not quite 5 minutes there, John.
No, that's good. Thank you very much. I mean, that's the thing with training, is sort of making sure that the what's being delivered is appropriate to the area. With my job, I do training in so many different areas, and sometimes you have to make it so very specific. You know, there is a little bit of transferable stuff, but sometimes it's just that specificness, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
Any questions, Vanessa? Sorry.
No.
Have a guest arrived yet, Catherine?
I just checked now that they're about 4 minutes away. So possibly, I don't know if anyone else has got any updates from their particular areas that they'd like to share.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Just tagging on to Vanessa's update. I've also been collaborating with family planning around delivering a suite of workshops surrounding intellectual or development disabilities in particular working and supporting with young people who are part of the rainbow community, who are also part of the intellectual development disability whānau as well. So we've planned 4 workshops this year that are just targeted at general staff or Te Whatu Ora Southern, so anyone can attend them. And we've got capacity to have 240 people in total attend those workshops for this year. And we're hoping to roll out more as well. So that should be quite cool. So the main idea is increasing the knowledge of people's attitudes towards sexuality and people with intellectual disabilities. It's also about how to create a positive and safe learning environment for people with intellectual disabilities, and also promoting sexual awareness for people with intellectual disabilities as well.
Thank you, Ross. Te Aho, you've got your hand up.
Kia ora. My question is for Ross, because I have been begging for 2 of my sons attend Ruru Specialist School here in Invercargill. And I did a workshop with family planning around sexuality and disability. I also believe there needs to be a focus around puberty and development, especially for those who are, so my sons have ASD, also global developmental delay, non-verbal, but are exhibiting things that I can only see is them going through puberty and, you know, expressing different ways and things. Will any of those courses be specifically around autism and sexuality, or puberty in itself? Kia ora.
Kia ora te aroha. As I'm aware, there is no particular focus on puberty. However, I can ask the course facilitators if that's something that we could add into those courses. I think that's a really important point you bring up. So let me look into that for you and I'll follow that up.
Yes, please, because I do remember when I was in high school, they had a puberty awareness night for mums and daughters, but there doesn't seem to be anything focused towards our children and how puberty, sexuality, and having relationships in that way are supposed to go and interact. So I sort of need some clarity, just because I have 3 boys on the spectrum at different varying stages and with different needs, how best to help all of them really. And not have to go in and also, you know, be the educator to the doctor sometimes. Kia ora.
Kia ora. I agree with you too. I think the main focus of these workshops is sexuality and tangata with intellectual disability. And yeah, I'll definitely follow up on the content in regards to puberty and see where they're going with that. So if you like, Te Aroha, I could also send you the outline of the courses, if that would be helpful.
Yes, please, that would be great. Yeah, because I feel like it's definitely a hole, like there's just nothing really filling it, and it's almost all of the stuff that I've looked at has been geared towards Down syndrome specifically, and sexuality and puberty, nothing more towards ASD or even just differences, sensory differences. Kia ora.
Thank you, Te Aho and Ross, for that. I'd like to welcome our guests. We've got Emily, Nikki and Liam from the new Dunedin hospital build. So what I'll do is hand the floor over to you guys, and we'd like to hear really where things are at, and anything else you'd like to share with us, any barriers, any way we can help, ways we can be more understanding.
Kia ora koutou, ko Emily tōku ingoa. Apologies, my unmute didn't work. Kia ora koutou, ko Emily tōku ingoa. I'm the project coordinator with the Te Whatu Ora Southern project team who's been working on the New Dunedin Hospital, and I'm here with my colleagues Liam and Nikki, who are both clinical project managers. We were invited to come along today and talk a little bit about how disability and accessibility has been taken into account in the design and planning for the hospital so far. So what we've prepared today is really a bit of an overview of that, and we're very happy to sort of take questions and tell you what we can at this stage, and indeed return to the forum in the future if there's more that you'd like to know. Is that okay if I go ahead and put the presentation up on the screen?
Yeah, thank you. So Emily, a couple of our participants got visual impairment, so you might actually have to verbally describe what's on the screens.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
And do you see the title screen there?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, as I said, Liam, Nikki and myself have come to talk a bit about how the hospital project has taken disability into account so far. And just a note here that we will show you some pictures in this presentation. They are all sort of indicatory artist impressions of the sorts of things that we're thinking about. In many cases, we're not really in a position to confirm the final details. So we just wanted to start by telling you a little bit about the background and how we've got here so far, and some of the key things that have been taken into account with the design. So we have a set of design principles which were developed fairly early in the process, and they've been very fundamental. They've guided a lot of our design decisions. And these were, first and foremost, putting the patient and whānau first in everything. And around that, our other design principles were a well-organised hospital, optimising our health system resources, ensuring that we're designing for health, and that's health in quite a broad sense, so wellness. And finally, the last one was being innovative and sustainable. Now, after those project design principles were developed, Te Pai Tata has come out, and we were very pleased to see that the principles there do align fairly well with our design principles. So that's given us confidence that those principles were fit for purpose. We've also been engaged in a co-design process with Mana Whenua, and a really important part of this is the cultural narrative that has been gifted to the project about the site and the Mana Whenua of the region and the key values which are important. And so those design principles have been woven in with the principles of the cultural narrative as well. So what you will see as we go through is that the cultural narrative has been used to underpin lots of aspects of the design. And more broadly, we've engaged in a really extensive process of engagement with our community and with stakeholders. We've had user groups, or fit groups as we called them, running for many years now through many different phases of design. We've had a clinical leadership group which had an overarching vision and visibility of that design process. They were largely clinical experts, but we did have 2 community health representatives on that group as well. Roughly speaking, we think we've had about 5 years of engagement with around 50 user groups involving about 500 people. So it has been a very extensive consultation process. In terms of ensuring accessibility, we've obviously had to meet some key key things here, we will be meeting the legislative and building codes in all our facilities. We're designing a health facility, of course, so there's been a lot of attention paid to thinking about making sure that the spaces are safe and easy to navigate. So in some cases, we've probably been able to enhance the basic requirements. You'll probably all be aware, though, that there is some pressure on the budget, so we haven't always been able to have the gold standard bells and whistles for everything that we might have liked to in a perfect world. A lot of the design of the facilities are based primarily on the Australasian Health Facility Guidelines. I don't know if any of you are aware of these, but they're very detailed sort of templates for designing different kinds of health facility rooms, units, and so on. They go into a lot of detail about what standards need to be met, what equipment needs to be in those rooms, and suggested designs and guidelines. Now, we haven't followed those in all cases to the letter, but they've been the basis, which we've then gone with the design team, the architects, and we've gone to our user groups and we've talked through whether these are suitable for our local context here in Southern. We've been able to tweak and change those as needed, but those guidelines have been sort of well researched and carefully thought through, so that's a great basis to start from. There's been an accessibility consultant contracted to the project to provide advice and to review the plans and designs at every key stage. And as I've mentioned, we've done a lot of consultation with users from all sorts of different backgrounds, staff, and from the community. So some examples of the sorts of features that you will find in the new Dunedin Hospital. We will have accessible car parking close to main entrances. We've thought about ensuring there are accessible routes into the buildings and through. As I said, we've got very wide corridors and a lot of thought has gone into where to put handrails in those corridors. There'll be a concierge assistance in the entrance. So this is a slightly different model to the way we do things now, but there will be people buzzing around, not just sitting behind a desk, but actually walking around, looking to help people, looking to assist anyone with anything that they might need. You'll see we've got some pictures later on that our reception desks have got a low section so that they're accessible for wheelchair users, and the lifts will have destination annunciation. So these are some fairly basic features, but they do show you the sorts of things you'll see in the new hospital. Going a bit further into that, we've got universal accessible toilets and en-suites throughout the facility. And by universal, what we mean is that these are not gendered facilities. They're available for anybody to use. And the rooms are self-contained. So everything that you need is going to be in that private room. We've got parenting and feeding rooms in both buildings. We've also got personal care rooms in both buildings. So those are the rooms that are also known as changing rooms in many places. We currently don't have one in Dunedin at all, and we'll have one in both the outpatients and the inpatients building. We've thought throughout the design and the facility about providing support for whānau and carers in various ways, and we can talk a bit more about that. We've got hearing loops and we've got Braille where it's required. This is an example of somewhere where it would be great to be able to offer more than just the basic what's required. We don't have the budget for that, but we have certainly talked about whether if funding were able to be found, there might be ways to enhance some of those features, and that is something that may happen later in the project. And in designing the internal interiors of the building, there's a lovely use of colour and patterns. You'll see a little bit of it later. Much of that has been drawn from the cultural narrative, but with certainly attention has been paid to ensuring that it's been used to create a calming, quiet sort of environment, nothing too overstimulating. So let's get on to the exciting bit and start looking at some pictures. So what I've got on this slide is these grayscale pictures, which look a little bit dull, but these are the room plans for a couple of those rooms that I was talking about. We've got an accessible ensuite bathroom here, and as you'll see, everything is contained in that room. And then over on the other side, this is one of these personal care or changing rooms that we were talking about. There's also a colour picture here of a reception area. This is a sort of indicative idea of what it might look like, but you'll see that there is a lowered desk there and a wheelchair user is able to go right up to that. Couple of pictures on this slide of some internal areas demonstrating different sort of waiting areas, calmer, quieter places where you can perhaps be away from the noise, you can maintain your privacy, and the use of colours to create a sort of calm, quiet environment. There'll also be some sort of consistent use of colour to indicate different floors and different areas. So this is a staff station here, and you'll see that we're going to have a sort of standard colour scheme there so that people will get to know what to look for and how to identify those spaces in the building. Another sort of grayscale plan here, but this just indicates this, what the bedrooms in the inpatient building will be like. Now, there will be various different designs, but this particular one is a single room. We'll have a lot of single rooms in that inpatient building. There'll also be some double rooms. The single rooms all have their own ensuite inside, so that provides a lot of privacy, but importantly, there's a capacity in these rooms for a carer to stay overnight. Now, that might be on a lazy boy, but some of the rooms will also have a pull-down bed, which will be a reasonably sized, comfortable bed where people can get a good night's sleep. Sorry, just hit the mouse there. Another thing that we thought might be interesting for you is our wayfinding solutions. That's something that we've been working on in the past year, and we're going to be taking quite a different approach in the new facility in that we're using alphanumeric coding to identify destinations. We spent quite a long time with a working group looking at different options here, and this is certainly going to be very new for us in Dunedin. But the big advantage, or one of the big advantages here, is that this is a language neutral system. The destinations will be fairly short codes, so something that we hope will be easy for anyone, whatever their sort of linguistic background, to identify and follow. It also means that there's a certain sort of logic to the way that you lay those out. So, for example, what you're seeing here is some examples of different areas from floors in the inpatient building. So the building itself will be identified by a letter. That's shown here as the letter B. We're not finally decided on what that's going to be. That's followed by a digit, and that indicates the floor of that building. So the letter shows you which building, and the next digit shows you which floor of the building you should be going to. And then finally, there's a digit, which is the name or number for a particular area or department in that building. And the idea is that there would be some logic to the way those are laid out. So the code will tell you what building to go to, what floor to go to, and from there we hope that our signage will be good enough that you'll be able to navigate to the particular department that you're going to. These also show you quite a nice example of the colours and the designs within the outpatient building. As I said, the colours linked to the cultural narrative and this beautiful pattern along the bottom. And you'll see that these are sort of quite clear ways of indicating the destination as you arrive at it. The typeface has been selected based on an expert wayfinding consultant that we were working with. They considered lots of factors in selecting a typeface which would be very legible for signage, and the one that they've recommended is Whera Sans. You'll see an example there and a little test that they do to show that it's one of the more legible fonts. We will have Te Reo and English on many of our signs, and they will be the same size and the same weight of font, but slightly different gradients. So the Te Reo is a full black and the English is a sort of dark grey. As I mentioned, again, we've got the colours on from the cultural narrative, and they'll be used on the different floors, which is another sort of supporting strategy to help along with wayfinding. So hopefully people will get used to the idea that, for example, on level 2, we've got this lovely purple colour, and so lots of the signage would be on that floor will be in purple. So if you know you're supposed to be on floor 2 and you're suddenly seeing lots of these green signs, that would be an indication that you're not on the right floor. This in the middle is an example of a ceiling sign that would be pointing towards some destinations. And you'll see on the bottom of that, there's a colour strip. Again, that's reinforcing what floor you're on. It's got some information in smaller font telling you what building you're in. And there's some pictograms there as well, indicating some facilities, a parent change, an accessible toilet and a toilet there. And then along the side, we've got some wall signs. These ones would be indicating a toilet or a wharepaku. And we have managed to secure the signage that the wheelchairs will be pointing in the correct direction. And thanks to John for his advocacy of that point. That's something that we've definitely got locked in now. We will be using some digital screens in the new hospital. They have the advantage that they're up to date. The brightness can obviously be adjusted, and we should be able to ensure that the information is always up to date. And outside the building, we've got very large external signage. You may or may not be able to see there's a sort of a little grey outline of a car here that indicates roughly how big those signs are. So these should be visible as you're driving up. And there's some pretty familiar sort of techniques that are used. Emergency is always indicated in red. We've got some familiar pictograms, big arrows. These numbers again are referring to the building, and we've got that familiar P10 for short-term parking on those external signs. And on this slide, I'm just showing the pictogram family for the signage. We, in conjunction, of course, with the consultants, we've tried to choose pictograms which are familiar, well-known, but also easy for people to understand. We hope that most of these will be pretty familiar to you. A few of them may be a bit newer. We've got one, for example, for a water dispenser. So that's not a water fountain where you drink directly from it in these COVID days, but somewhere you can fill up a bottle. We're going to have a spiritual centre in the inpatient building. So there's a little figure here kneeling and praying. That one might be new for some people. And one that's actually going to be designed specifically for our facility is this one here in the corner, which is currently is a little swirly spiral shape. That's going to indicate a Y touch point. And that's something which has been incorporated into various places in the facility as a result of our co-design with Mana Whenua. To allow people to make sure they're cleansing as they go from tapu to noa and leave the facility and enter the facility. Finally, there will be various different digital solutions in our new digital enabled hospital. Not all of these are going to come on the day that the hospital opens. We hope that some of our new digital solutions will be online sooner than that, and some may take a bit longer to develop. But as an example of some of the things that we're going to be developing and implementing, we'll have a patient-focused booking solution, and that should mean that patients have a lot more agency in when their appointments are made to ensure that it's a time that works for them, works for their whānau. If you've got multiple bookings on the same day, you should be able to get them all close together. If you've got whānau travelling and different people have bookings or appointments to go to, we can cluster those together. There'll be various different options to check in. As I mentioned, we will have the concierge assistance, but we'll also have some check-in kiosks so people can go in and work through that process in their own time and privacy. We've already mentioned the digital signage and the hearing loops. We hope that we'll be expanding our options to provide telehealth, and that should mean that there are more different ways to do that, and in really suitable purpose-built facilities where it's nice and quiet and there's lots of privacy for the clinicians talking to you. In the inpatient building, there'll be an inpatient engagement system, so a digital screen, something like a tablet, where patients will be able to interact, find out information, perhaps order their meals or find out something about the artwork they can see outside. And there are lots of ideas being talked about at the moment about developing apps for devices that would assist people traveling around the facility, coming to the hospital, or people who are in hospital. A lot of that is still in the phase of sort of concept design development and ideas being shared. But there's certainly a lot of capacity, as you can imagine, for for that kind of thing. And what we're trying to do is, even where we're not able to perhaps definitely confirm that that's going to happen, we always try to design the facility and our systems to be as flexible as possible for future development of that kind of thing. And that is the end of my slideshow, so I will stop sharing, and we're very happy to take feedback or questions.
Awesome, thank you for that, Emily. Simon, you've got your hand up. I'm very aware it's 12 o'clock, guys, so if anyone has to leave, I'll thank you now for your attendance, and if there's anything that comes in this question and answer session, we'll sort of get it out to you guys. Okay, Simon.
I'll keep recording as well, so that the recording will be available probably in a week or so on our website.
Awesome.
Yeah, hi. I do have a couple of questions. The first one, why only one changing room, I think is what you referred to it as, in each building? Is that a budget constraint, or is that just a design feature? I would have thought possibly 2 in each building would be a better option.
I think that obviously budget is an issue, but probably a more important factor here is simply space. There's a lot of things that we need to include in the building, and a lot of our facilities in a modern building take up quite a bit more space. For example, all of our facilities are going to be universal, so they will all be those rooms with a toilet and a wash basin and a bin, and they take up quite a lot more room than a sort of gendered facility where you've just got a row of stalls, for example. Nikki, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say.
Yes, thank you, Emily. So Nikki Scott Tokongawa. The changing of rooms are akin to, at this stage, we haven't officially got the Changing Places name, but we are talking with Jen from Changing Places. There are some more in Dunedin. I understand that in the near future, including the 2 proposed, one in the outpatient building, one in the inpatient building, there will be around 5 in Dunedin in the future. And they will be, will work through ensuring that there is equitable access.
Right. Okay. No, that's cool. The other question I had, Emily, was around your signage in the buildings. How does a blind person get on?
We will have, as I said, we'll have the concierges there when people arrive. We have Braille where we need to, and we have the lift enunciation. I might call on my clinical colleagues too, and Liam, who's been working on the digital stuff, may have some more to say here.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, I guess from a digital perspective, one of the concepts that's being worked through is having a digital map of the building, and the technology that's being put in place is intended to allow for sort of like a Google Maps turn by turn format of being able to navigate the space. So if there's a destination on level 2, being able to use a sort of personal device to get access to that space from a directions perspective. That's one of those concepts which again may or may not be enabled from day one, but it's certainly something that from a technology perspective the building is being kitted out with the appropriate sort of sensors and whatnot to support that type of navigation. I'm not sure, Nikki, if there are any other further thoughts that have come through wayfinding that would be helpful for Simon?
No, I don't believe that I have any additional information around that. I just want to say that I can see William Robertson on screen, and I just wanted to say that the concierge model was proposed by William and his team, and is a brilliant model that they have proposed.
Oh, thanks, Nikki. So is that concierge model, how do I phrase it? Is there going to be a concierge on each floor?
Not at this stage. William, you may be able to add your 2 cents in. If I don't have this right, feel free to correct me. At this stage, we still haven't worked through the model in great detail. It is that staff won't be sitting behind a traditional reception desk, that they will be out and about meeting and greeting people as they arrive to give them that sense of manaakitanga or welcome into the space, ensuring that people have the ability to choose to do a check-in as they prefer on an independent kiosk, or they might prefer the human touch.
That's exactly, yeah, nailed it.
Okay, no, that's cool. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Any more questions for Emily and the team? I'd just like to personally say it's been good working with you guys, and I know it hasn't been easy trying to get everything right to suit everyone, and I think you guys have done a very good job. It's going to be exciting, and I'm looking forward to visiting the hospital as a visitor, not as a patient. It's going to be good. But no, I think you guys, have done a really good job, because wayfinding is not an easy thing to get right for everyone. So
I have a
thank you for your
question.
tolerance. Sorry, Paula?
I have a question that's related to the concierge concept as well, which I'm pleased to see implemented, because that was something that I suggested way back, having people to meet people going into the hospital. So will those people be able to guide a blind person to where they need to go, like whether no matter what floor it's on, or are they just going to stay in that main entrance area?
So would you take that, Nikki?
I was secretly hoping you would. Thank you, William.
That's okay, tell me your face. That's exactly. I don't think they should be bound by, constrained to the ground floor at all. There will be a mix. As Nikki said, we haven't worked through exactly how it's going to be staffed, but it will be a mix of staff and volunteers as there are currently, and yes, there will be an expectation that people will, if they need to, will be able to leave the floor and take the consumer to where they need to go. That's all part and parcel of ensuring the person gets to where they need to go as quickly and smoothly as possible, with a minimum of disruption, minimum of hassle to the consumer, and that's what they're going to be there for. So yes, if they need to take someone, if that's the best way to do it, then they should take someone to them. So yeah, exactly, Paula. I think that's how I envisage it working. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for that.
Thanks a lot, Paula and William. Very aware of time. We'll make this the last question. That's okay, Tiara.
Kia ora, William and the rest of the team. I'm just wanting to know, when we had is the concierge going to be an added member to what a reception team is, as in that's a role separate for them, or is it going to be a role that is embodied by all the people that work the reception? Or is it going to be like when we had our COVID response teams at the hospital, where we had that, I don't know, was she a health support person? The lady that came up and asked us and helped us when we were there doing an audit?
Yeah.
Is it going to be more like that?
No, the concierge will be the what is currently a reception. There won't be a reception desk as you in the traditional model that you see in Dunedin Hospital at the moment, and doesn't really exist in Southland Hospital. It will be people. They will be out and about. They will be mobile. They will. Some of the banks use this model as well, where the customer service person comes to the customer rather than waiting for the customer to come to them, and that's the whole concept. So yes, they will be members. Yes, they will be the patient in Dunedin. They're called the patient inquiries team, along with the St John visitor host team as well. It'll be a merging of those two, and it shouldn't matter who you speak to. Everybody should be able to do everything as well. It's quite a bold vision.
Thank you, William. So if there's no more questions, we'll finish now. As Catherine said, the video recording will be available in a week or so. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your good work
Are
you
we-
guys in your hospital. Sorry,
Are we
what's
going
that?
to do a closing karakia?
Yeah,
I
that'd
know we
be-
didn't do an opening one, but
Have you got one there, Tiara? Sorry to put you on the spot.
yep. Sorry, I'll just pull it up.
Thank you for that.
That's all right. Sorry, I did have it open.
Just in the meantime, on behalf of our team, thank you for the invite, for the opportunity to talk to you. And as Emily said, more than happy to come back, or if there are further questions, you can reach out to us either. Well, I'm not sure, Emily, what's the best way to reach out to us?
Kia ora, thank you.
Kia ora, yes, really happy to have any questions or feedback. I can send through Catherine my email address, and I just also wanted to say that we're starting the process of planning to actually move into the outpatients building. This is really exciting for us, but we would love to come back and talk to you and get some feedback about that as we go on, because it's really, really important that we get this right. We understand what people want to know, need to know, and what's the best way to deliver that information. So it's early days for us now, but we would love to come back and tell you more about that side of things.
Look forward to
Thanks,
having you
Emily.
back. Over to you, Tiara. Hath.
Kia ora, kia tau, tōrangi Māori e ki runga i ngā iwi o te ao. Let your peace reign on all the people of the world. Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you for today. Kia ora, John.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, folks. Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Kia ora.
Thanks,
Thanks,
John.
all. Kia ora.
Thank you.